Hello and welcome to Real Voices of Happy Valley. So who are we talking to in this one, Viv?
On this one, we're talking to campaigners Sarah Crane and Jenny Shepherd, who are involved in the fight against what's known as Calderdale Energy Park, building wind turbines on Walshaw Moor.
Right, which is a peat moor,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And that holds lots of carbon, and the layout of the moor determines the flow of water down into the valley, which anyone who's been flooded or seen the floods will know is quite important.
Yes, yeah. And to cover up that peat or dig it up and throw it away, however they would do it, and cover it in concrete, it's incredibly risky.
Absolutely, as Jenny explains, explained when we were talking to her. Now, what's the name of Jenny's organisation?
Well, she was in Ban the Burn, which was originally about grouse shooting parties, burning off the vegetation on the moors so that they could kill birds. Whatever you think about the bird killing aspect, it was a dangerous thing to do, not just for the birds.
Yeah, because it increases the flow of water running off the moors into the towns.
And as we know, into our house at the time on Dodnays.
Absolutely.
And so Sarah, Jenny's from that organisation. Sarah is from For Peat's Sake.
Great name.
P-E-A-T. Yeah. Trying to preserve peat bogs. And Walshaw Moor is a huge area. There's all the district councils involved include Burnley and Keighley and Bradford, as well as us. So it's a very big campaign and
a very important one.
Yes.
Really. And as these things go, never as simple as you think at first.
No, and you will hear just how much Jenny has had to learn. Both of them have had to learn in order to fight this.
And they thought they were taking on, somebody putting up some wind turbines and maybe the council, but it turns out they're taking on global capitalism.
Just by the by, yeah.
Yes.
And so do listen, and if you are moved by what they say, which I don't see how you could fail to be, please do what you can to help them. The first voice you hear will be Jenny.
Really conflicted because we support onshore wind. We recognise that climate change is a massive issue and that renewable energy is part of the solution. But we also recognised it was going to damage the moor in exactly the same way as mismanagement for grouse shooting would, in that it involves draining the moor, because you can't build on a bog, you have to drain it. And it's the drainage that basically causes a massive degradation of the moor, so biodiversity loss of carbon capture and storage ability, increased flood risk, and damage to water quality, because once the peat gets degraded, when there's heavy rainfall, it washes a load of peat off into the reservoirs, and then we have to pay for extra treatment facilities. So it's disastrous on 4 counts. So we thought, well, we've got to stop this. So that's where Ban the Burn's coming from.
Called Ban the Burn.
Yeah. But we're part of Peatland Alliance. And it's like Upper Calderdale Wildlife Network that was involved with Ban the Burn right from the start, but also operates separately as a conservation group. And 4S Tree, which is the successor organisation to Tree Responsibility, and any other group that has protecting peatland as their core kind of conservation intention.
Yeah, so you must have, it must be hard trying to whittle it all down. There must be so many conservation groups in the area, or aren't there?
There's a good fair few. Not all of them are kind of formally part of the campaign, but are supportive.
Yeah. So where is this up to?
Do you want to go?
Yeah. I don't know whether we're up to that stage yet, but we're. I mean, I'm part of a little group called For Pete's Sake, and we're working alongside, all the other groups and promoting the main campaign actions. So I mean, at the moment we're up to the stage where we're calling for amendments to the government's planning and infrastructure bill. So we're promoting that. Our groups trying to promote that at the moment as a call to action for so people can write to their MP and put pressure on local MP.
Because the Walshaw is a Walshaw Moor.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't got planning permission yet, has it?
No, they've not got to the state of putting in a planning application.
Is that good? Does that mean they're worried, or does
it just means
take a long time?
There's two things. Just to add to what Sarah was saying, the thing about amending this planning and infrastructure bill, which is very contentious because it's taking away all the environmental protections that exist. We've made 2 amendments that we want the government to add to its list of amendments, and one is that there's a ban on wind farms on protected peatland throughout England, and the other thing is that there's a requirement that all protected peatland should be restored to favourable conservation status. So we don't just want to stop the wind farms being built, we actually want all these incredibly valuable, environmentally precious sites restored to good condition, because they're not at the moment. But in terms of where the planning thing's up to, they've got to put in a new scoping report, because they put in a scoping report in September 23, but it was before the planning laws were changed, and it would have been determined by the local council planning department. And now the laws have been changed so that big wind farms are called critical national priorities or something, and nationally significant infrastructure projects. They've got a different planning process that's determined by the planning inspectorate and ultimately the Secretary of State. So they've got to put in a new scoping report for this new planning process, and they want to do it because it's faster.
And they can override the local authority.
The local authority has, where we're up to at the moment is they've formally started what's called the pre-application stage. The local authority has a really important function in that, because they're a statutory consultee, and they have to approve what's called a statement of community consultation that the wind farm people have to give to the council and say, once we've got our scoping report done and we've had your response and we've had all the other consultees' response and we've actually come up with an application, then we'll consult on it. And council's role is really important in the pre-application stage, and we're trying to really encourage people to get in touch with the councillors to make sure the council's going to deal with it properly.
And this is Calderdale Council.
Yeah, it's Calderdale Council, but all the neighbouring authorities also are statutory consultees.
Of course, yeah.
So who are the neighbouring authorities then? Is that Bradford and
Lancashire?
There's Burnley, there's
Burnley.
Keighley and Ilkley, there's Pendle and Clitheroe, there's Halifax.
Well, they've all got a consultee role.
Yeah, they're all
as well.
statutory consultees, and Calderdale Council is kind of expected to have some kind of central role in all those. So it is, we didn't understand what the new planning process was going to be, and we're actually pleased to find that Calderdale Council's got a significant role. But then the next big campaign ask is to make sure the council's going to do it properly, because at the moment they don't have a chief planning officer because Richard Riggs has left, and they're not adequately resourced in the planning department to do what they have to do. So we've been like encouraging people to write both to the planning department and to the councillors, their ward councillors, and say, please get this sorted as soon as possible, because our council's not going to be able to do its job. You know, we kind of think that the councillors should really have as big a role in the process as possible, because they're the ones who are accountable to the people. Yeah. And the officers aren't in the same way.
Yeah, that would be called democracy.
Wouldn't it? Keep forgetting that word.
Yeah, steady.
That's it.
Revolutionary now, asking for
And
democracy.
they are working for
Yeah.
us, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's the theory. That's the theory.
I mean,
Yeah.
have you got a sort of flavour of how the council feel, or would it be jinxing it to say?
Yeah, they're still remaining neutral.
There's two strands to our campaign. One is the national campaign to change the legislation so that wind farms on peatland can't happen at all. And that would mean that this project goes out the window.
Yeah.
And the other is, if that doesn't happen, then to stop Calderdale Energy Park. And you're right that they can't take up a position because that's predetermination of their decision making, and they're not allowed to do that. They're being very cagey because they can't. And Jonathan Timbers, who's one of the Calder Ward councillors, said in a meeting that I was at a week ago that they can't take a position on Calderdale Energy Park yet, because that means they wouldn't then be able to discuss it when it comes for discussion and decision making. But they all said in this meeting that they really understand the need to get the planning department properly resourced so that it can do its job. And they also, the other kind of campaign ask we've got at the moment is we're really dissatisfied with the environmental information that the wind farm people put out in their non-statutory consultation. Their peat map is a joke. They've not done any hydrology surveys, and the hydrology, which is, you know, how the movement of water within the bog works and how different bits of the bog relate to each other, and that's absolutely crucial.
Now, all the people who live below that moor would be very interested in where the water's flowing, because as we were saying earlier, you know, we all know it's flowed through our house, so we know what I mean.
Yes,
You know, a lot of people in the same situation.
Well, the Environment Agency, when the first scoping report came out, their response was, it's the Environment Agency Biodiversity section did a response, and they said it's the wrong place and they don't support it because it's actually in the wrong place. And if that's the Environment Agency that's responsible for moderating the flood risk in Hebden, that has to count.
God,
That
yeah,
they think
surely.
it shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, with it, I know it's obvious, but what are they thinking? Do they just think, wind farms, everyone thinks they're great, you know, it'll save the national grid and all the rest of it, without thinking it through, how they're doing it?
Well, this is where we come back to money. It's much more profitable return on the land now, wind farms are, than grass shooting. And I'm sure that that's what it's about. But, you know, that's just me speculating. We don't know what their motives are, and they say it's because they want to mitigate climate change, but building wind farms on peat doesn't actually mitigate climate change, because you damage the carbon storage in the peat. And this isn't just us, there's Scottish Government's carbon calculator for wind farms on peat, and they've just done a big review of this carbon calculator, and they say actually it's no longer fit for purpose because the basis of its calculations have changed so much, and they're realising that their knowledge of peat science has changed so much that all the kind of way that data gets processed when you put it into the carbon calculator is no longer fit for purpose. And they've said that they reckon by 2040, if you build a wind farm on peat, you're not actually going to mitigate climate change at all, because the grid by then will be so decarbonised that you won't be displacing dirty fuel with clean fuel. And it's called carbon intensity. It's the amount of carbon emissions that are generated for the amount of electricity that's generated. And for wind farms on peat, that carbon intensity is high. So when the grid's decarbonised, if you have a wind farm on peat, it's got greater carbon, it's displacing cleaner energy in the grid.
Right.
And that's not happening yet, but the trend is going, so that's where it's going.
So where did you get your own? I mean, that's an amazing font of knowledge you've got there, and science you know, when you heard about this happening, did you already know a lot
No,
about
we
them?
didn't know. We thought if
Did
we're
you
going to
go and
do this,
research?
if we're going to do this, we've got to get expert advice.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were very agitated when this was announced, and there was a lot of useful information being put up on social media from the peat ecology literature. So we looked at the ones that seemed to us to be most relevant, and we had Zoom calls with those guys and women, and basically got advice about what are the winnable arguments. And the winnable arguments are about things that are material planning considerations and our national energy policy considerations, because that's what the planners have to judge it against. So that's what we've based our campaign arguments on. And we've been really lucky with people, like peat people, who've been very, very generous with their time.
Yeah.
And you've been down to the Houses of Parliament as well, haven't you?
Yeah, there's a guy called Richard Lindsay who's a internationally recognised peat ecologist, and he's done a lot of current work with Natural England and the International Union of Conservation Networks, the UK peat programme. He's done a lot of research for them, and he came to this MP's information event that we held in Parliament and basically did a presentation, and Josh Fenton Glynn turned up, which we were really pleased about, and had a long chat with Richard Lindsay, and he's just been he's just really, he's just a fount of knowledge. You know, he's been working, he's semi-retired now, and he's been working in this all his life.
It's amazing how research seems to have developed over the last 30 years or so. Remember, you may not be, Sarah, but some of us are old enough to remember that, when they started the Ecology Party, which became the Green Party, and they were just seen as a bunch of cranks. And now, a lot of things they were saying then are sort of mainstream, but there's so much more knowledge behind it now. So it's important, it's interesting that you said the researchers, the knowledge of peatlands and things has changed so much that sort of strategies and policies have to keep up with the research.
Yeah, and you sort of wonder if the people planning it have anything like the same amount of knowledge of what they're doing, especially the owners of the land, who don't apparently know anything. They just want to sell the land. And
it's funded by a Saudi company called Al Jahaz Holding is the parent company. It's one of their subsidiaries that's funding the development, and so there's this whole corporate network.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of mind-boggling.
It gets bigger and uglier the more you talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the thing that's I've started thinking about recently is that I came across a case. There's this international trade dispute settlement thing, this international deal that lets a corporation sue a government if it damages their investment in a country. There's been a case recently, an energy-related case that I can't remember the details of, where a foreign-owned company got knocked back at some stage in its investment programme and went to this international trade dispute settlement deal. And it suddenly crossed my mind that if this is a foreign-owned project and it gets knocked back, are we going to see that happening? And this is just a speculative question. I have no idea, but it's just, you were saying it gets bigger and more complicated, and that's just a new complication that's kind of occurred to me.
Basic. That's not fair, is it?
No,
Going into
it's not.
another country where you don't live or necessarily have any ties, saying, sell this to me, and someone says no, and they can sue them.
It's back to that strange word, democracy, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's like, you don't let that. Democracy is a good thing, but don't let it get in the way of business.
Yeah, I know.
Profit.
Business and profit, and you must be learning more and more about that as you go along.
So, to make it personalise it a bit, because this is about the real voices of real people who live in the valley. So, Sarah, is this taking up a lot of your time? I'm interested in your personal motivations or what's going on.
It has got it. Not a little. Yeah. I mean, I'm because I've been working with our little group for Pete's sake, and we take to the local fetes and agricultural shows, and we go with our stall, and we're promoting the campaign and raising awareness, and then the next step, because most people around here, a lot of people around here know about about this proposal now, and so it's just promoting, encouraging people to take an active role, and
how are people reacting to you?
Pretty much positively.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the one or two people. We have the debates with people like, we need the onshore wind. Where else is it going to go? If it's not here, other people. But so we have them debates. But our argument being we cannot have it at the expense of the peatland, and there are plenty of other places in the country where we can build them.
It's not a NIMBY thing, is it?
No,
not in my backyard.
No.
Yeah, because it's like not in anyone's backyard. So Jenny was saying.
So like Jenny was saying, it's a national campaign as well. We're not just trying to stop this wind farm. We're trying to protect peatland in this.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, I've got a friend who lives in Old Town, and he's generally, saved the planet. Climate change is a bad thing, but without going into any detail. And a few years ago, he was in a conversation about sort of wind turbines, and he said, "I don't like the look of them." And some of his friends told him off.
Yeah.
And this time round, and he heard about these wind turbines coming from not far from where, he said, "That's a good thing, isn't it?" And his friends told him off. So there's people like that, who have are emotionally, politically, on the right path, but need persuading by people like you at these stalls.
Yeah, and then some people won't be persuaded, and that's their opinion, and agree to disagree. But we've had quite a few people who kind of, when we have the talk and inform them about, the triple protected area up there, and the points of our campaign, like, so we do. We've there was like the other week at Trawden, and there was somebody who was just like, no, I don't agree with you there, and then we were chatting, and then he just came round to the points we were making, and he signed our post.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yes, an actual example. I'm sure over the long term, an awful lot of people do that. I did, because I thought, objecting to a wind farm, have a word with yourselves. And then I looked into it and thought, oh God, no, we can't go concreting over our peat.
No,
and things. Yeah.
And it is
all the birds that nest there.
Absolutely, and the flooding concerns. I mean, we just
Perhaps two things occur to me. One is the people who own those unprotected and pieces of land that don't need protection. I need to be told about this so they can make some money out of it. And what's David Attenborough got to say about it? Because if anyone's going to be listened to, it's David Attenborough, but we all know that.
David Attenborough.
Really quick. I don't know how long we've got him for, do we? But, an awful lot of his concern is with habitats of wildlife.
One of his series ended, I think it was the Blue Planet one about the sea, finished with all this, like these plastic bags in the sea. And the following year, everyone was banning plastic bags. Supermarkets were sort of saying you can't have them. All the major festivals were sort of, stopping use of single-use plastics and things like that.
Yeah, it's incredibly influential.
It's worth
Anyway,
it.
just a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, more celebrity endorsements would be good.
Well, I mean, I don't think many people are going to care what Katy Perry has to say about it. So maybe in terms of
the
what
younger generation.
young women should wear, they might listen to Katy Perry. But in terms of the planet, David Attenborough is probably more.
I've got one thing, a new bit of the campaign that's coming up is that Calderdale Council's got they're doing what's called a development planning document, which is how they amend the local plan. And they've got a very early stage consultation on what issues they should include in their development plan document for energy efficiency and generation. And they're wanting to revise the local plan to open up Calderdale to big onshore wind farms. And we want people to respond to that and say, leave the local plan as it is in terms of its designation for wind turbines, because it's not safe to put wind farms up to zone the uplands for wind. It's not safe. So we're coming up with we're responding ourselves, and we're making a template response. So if people want to respond but are not quite sure, want a bit of help, want a few suggestions, we will have a template response on the website soon, and it would be great if people could make their own response to the consultation and say, this is really, really, really important.
So what's the website?
Yes, what's the website?
The actual URL is saverestorewalshawmoor.wordpress.com. It hasn't got the and in because we didn't want the URL to be so very,
It sounds like a slogan people would chant, doesn't it?
That's what we thought.
Is that what?
That's what we thought.
Save, restore, Walshaw Moor. Yeah. It's good. Well, thank you very much for coming in and chatting with us. Yeah.
It was really interesting.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot.
And well done for doing so much work on it. And lots of other people, presumably, as well.
Yeah, no, there's